relaxing to the background music that we just had, and thanks again for joining us for another Friday. First of all, may I firstly pay our respects to all Aboriginal people with us today, but also elders past, present and emerging, of which we work with to help discover the stories of our land. And over 60,000 years of history before us, we need to understand more about this earth that we use for our work every day. So welcome everyone, and to our Aboriginal people present today. You'll also see we have some transcript that is for our hard of hearing, and that hopefully will interpret the words that I'm speaking and others throughout this session in the best appropriate way possible. A very exciting morning where we're welcoming Amanda Stephinson from the Ministry of Health, the New South Wales Ministry of Health, to join us today. She gave a great update to the sports sector, which I was privileged to be part of, and I asked her to join us today to help educate our outdoor sector on what is happening in a very busy department of health. And obviously Amanda's extremely busy. So I, for one, appreciate your time immensely, Amanda, and I'm sure everyone on the call does today. But may I please hand over to yourself and fill us in on where we sit right now in this crazy world we live. I think I can see you there. Hold on, your sound's not working there, Amanda. Can't hear you quite. You're unmuted, but your sound doesn't seem to be working. Should have tested it, shouldn't we? Do you want to jump out and come back in and see if that works?
Is it working now?
Hey, we got you.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you, and sorry about that. I have removed my mask for those hard of hearing, but I am in the office, so I will put it back on straight away. So I am following the rules. Thanks so much for having me today, everyone. And I'll just probably provide a quick update. I'm happy to answer any questions, but please note, I try and know the public health orders, but there are many, and so I might take some of your questions on notice as well. So, I mean, where we're at, I obviously work for New South Wales Health, and we have venues popping up across the state. And I noticed that in the chat, David Chitty's talking about joining us. So thank you, Melbourne, for coming on. I think you've had your fair share of lockdown, so I think we're joining you. So it's obviously been a very busy few weeks, and the team here are working really hard to get this outbreak under control. But I suppose I just want to acknowledge sometimes I would talk about things in regards to Greater Sydney, because obviously that's where we're feeling the effects the most, but we also have restrictions in place for regional New South Wales. So if you're getting confused between the two, sometimes I just leap into Greater Sydney mode, but always check with me if you're concerned whether it affects you in the regional New South Wales area as well. So sort of where we are is obviously the stay-at-home order has been extended till at least 30th of July at this stage. I know how frustrating that is for operators, for businesses, look, for really everyone, but I think it's the only thing we can do to really try and get this under control. And I think the key message that we all need to remember is that we have public health orders and they are the legal documents. There's also a lot of intent behind it. And I work with a very large number of very passionate public health experts, obviously being led by Dr. Kerry Chan. And I can tell you that the intent is please stay home in Greater Sydney. Do not leave unless it's absolutely essential. Like, we all know we can look for loopholes in the order, and we all continually try to do this. But if we can just go back to that and just really think about it, every time you're about to leave the house, do I really need to go? Can this be done online? Can I do it in my own home? And is it really going to protect the safety of our family and friends and community? Because if we don't all take the onus on ourselves to do this and we think, oh, it doesn't affect me or this doesn't relate to me, we're not going to get out of this lockdown. And I think those that are in Melbourne really have said that, and we speak to our Victorian colleagues and we speak to all our national colleagues, and we all know that it's once the personal responsibility comes in, and We can try and scare you with enough tactics to get you to stay home, put enough rules in place. But really, that's the message. If you're in Greater Sydney, including those surrounding areas that we talk about, Central Coast, Shell Harbour, etc., you really need to be staying home. I think also there's been a lot of rhetoric in the media that this is a Southwest Sydney issue. I just want to ensure people this is not a Southwest Sydney issue. What it is, there's a high number of cases that are being transmitted in the Southwest area. But what we are seeing is these splintering coming off into other, what we call local health districts, and they really are starting to pick up. People have to move for essential work, and you would have heard a lot of debate about what is essential. Essential work is if you cannot work from home. So I know that's a really vague definition, but as whether you're employers or an employee, please just try and take that back to your business. That's what we mean. So we only want people that need to be working. So employers have a role to play as well. In regards to regional New South Wales, really we want to encourage people to follow the rules there. I know it feels particularly odd that you might think you have no cases in your local area, but you're having to wear a mask inside or at work or whatever it is you're doing, or you've got your restrictions to your exercise and everything like that. But we're already seeing, you would have seen in the last few days, a couple of regional locations pop up in our case locations list. So that's why there are still people travelling from Greater Sydney for essential work that could become COVID positive, as we have seen. And then so what we don't want is that expanding. We all know our health systems in regional and rural New South Wales just don't have the capacity like we have in Metro. And even in Metro, we are feeling the pressures on our health system already. In regards to exercise, I suppose that's obviously the key area that everyone likes to focus on. You will note that in Sydney, the stay-at-home order now has a restriction on exercise with one person, not including household men. I'm just receiving a message from Dawn that she's not receiving audio. Is anyone else receiving audio? Okay, great. I'll continue and hopefully Dawn can jump on. Yeah, so I just want to note that you can do it with your household. So the 2 people rule doesn't apply to households, but you are supposed to stay within your LGA. And then if you live on the border of an LGA, like LGAs, that's when that 10-kilometre rule comes into play. So what we want people to do is stay close to home. So if you are needing to cross LGA borders, which many of us live right in between 2 suburbs, make sure that you stay within 10 kilometres. So I know that probably really affects your businesses and what you like to do, for your own pastimes and your own mental health, but just please keep that in mind, that we've just got to really acknowledge that. And I suppose my only other point would be vaccinations. If you can get vaccinated, do it, especially those in the Greater Sydney area. We know that having 1 dose of either vaccine that we have currently in Australia it greatly reduces your need to be hospitalised if you contract COVID, but 2 doses, it really puts you in a high prevention rate from hospitalisation. So I know people are really concerned in the media about, they're not telling us which cases are vaccinated and which ones aren't and what vaccine they had and how many doses they've had. Look, the team are just so busy trying to find where people are going and what they're doing. We do ask their vaccination status, but to get someone data crunching that while we're really just trying to just get everyone out there. And as Dr. Chant said yesterday, we've got enough data from overseas to know that vaccines work. So obviously I'm not going to get into a vaccine debate here today, but if you want to and you can, get vaccinated, especially those that need to get their second dose of AstraZeneca. It will provide you huge protection. So Laurie, up to you. Happy to take questions. Also happy to take them on notice, whatever preference for you.
Brilliant, Amanda, and thank you so much for that update. I think online, I'm just looking across all the names. We've got a mixture of Greater Sydney and regional New South Wales, and some Mexicans on the line as well. I'll open it up. I'll see if anyone wants to ask any questions. I know I've got a few from some people that couldn't make it today that I'll ask, but I'll open it up to the floor first of all. Graham?
Yeah, hi Amanda. Is there any indication whether there'll be a review of the restrictions in regional New South Wales before the 30th of July, before the current lockdown in Sydney or Greater Sydney is due to conclude?
Graham, good question. Look, everything happens day by day here, but I would say unlikely. They've come out and they've said 30th of July, similar to Sydney. So I would assume they would keep it to that point. But as I say, anything can happen in the world of politics and government.
Thank you.
Great. Just on that, Amanda, if I can just extend that, and it might be something that you can't answer, but I think a lot of business in regional comes from Sydney. So obviously that has an effect on regional New South Wales. But if there is an ability for regional New South Wales to move within regional New South Wales, do you see what we had last year of this decrease of decrease of restrictions, 4 square metre, 2 square metre? Are we in a similar position to what we were last year in that sort of relaxation in stages?
Look, they haven't even, well, there are people always looking obviously at the pathway out and what life looks like after lockdown. I think the Premier's been very clear that she really wants to be able to give people the comfort of what it's going to look like. I think especially when it comes to outdoor exercise, that's been one area that there has been a strong advocacy coming through. I think where they're at though is they're like, we just are right in the thick of it at the moment. We can think about what it might look out, but until we see those numbers of infectious people in the community, so we're still seeing 20 odd plus people a day that are infectious in the community. Until that number goes down, they're just really stuck in trying to fix what's in front of them, not looking too far ahead. And I know that's not what anyone wants to hear. And look, it's not what the Premier wanted to be doing a week ago. I mean, these things just obviously change so fast. She was very committed to being able to give that pathway out, but unfortunately, I think we're just stuck in the now until we get this a little bit more under control.
Yeah, understandably. I think one of the questions I got from a member that couldn't make it today basically said the COVID plans that they have in place for last year, when it was not the Delta variant, would they still apply with the Delta variant? I mean, have we got to do extra things with this strain of the virus that we didn't do up to now?
I'd have to probably take that one on notice, Laurie. I think that the Delta strain is different. Obviously, we know it transmits faster and spreads wider. So where we used to see in households, say, family of 6, 2 people might have contract COVID. Now we're now seeing the whole family get it, right? So it's pretty much a high 100% transmission within a household. So that just shows how much faster and thorough it is in spreading and how many more people seem to catch it. I think what we still don't have strong evidence on here is that transmission rate outside. And so I think that's one area that they'll look at. But every other place, like as many other jurisdictions are doing, they wear masks outside. So I think everyone's just working together to get as much data to help feed where we can do it. But I think overall, I think New South Wales outdoor restrictions have probably been more lax than other jurisdictions. So I'm not sure whether they'll change that, but I haven't heard anything. But, there's a press conference at 11. I often find things out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the challenge with our environment is that we are outdoors and we are doing majority of our stuff outdoors, but we do have camp environments. So, balancing the two. David, you had a question?
It was probably really a statement in a sense. We've just reviewed our, the last year since I knew we assumed this was going to happen. I don't think you have to change a lot of the stuff we had previously in our QR plans, but our COVID plans. But for instance, QR codes, are a newer thing and might not be in older plans. And we've just re-emphasised the wearing of masks, the fact that this variant is a little bit easier to catch, and that we need to be really a lot more careful, with sanitising and the rest of the stuff. But we've found our plans probably hold pretty well. But changing them, redating them, and sending them out to everybody is what we're in the process of doing at the moment.
Yeah, great. I think Amanda's having some audio trouble. Can you hear us okay? Yep, not working. Try unmuting and see if we can hear you. If she can't hear me, she's not going to be able to do that, is she? No, that's okay. I think what we might do, Amanda, if you can read the text down the bottom, is I will send you some questions that might be relevant. And if you could get back to me on those after our discussion today. Did anyone have any questions that they wanted to bring up now? And I can certainly send them to Amanda to get a response for you. I'll just tell her that I'm getting no sound. Okay, all good. I'll just say. Anyone else want to ask anything of Amanda just quickly before she dashes, and I'll see if I can text them through. Yep, Dawn, we'll cover that in a second when we go to ACT. But if Amanda, you can hear me or read me, thank you for your time, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much. Zoom is a challenge at the best of times, but it's always fun when we're trying to ask questions. So again, thank you all for joining and hearing that. It was great to have Amanda come on and fill us in from the Ministry of Health, a certainly busy department at the moment. And I know that we are working with all different departments at the moment. Health is really leading the throes on all things, but certainly Department of Education is one that we are trying to work with as well to navigate our way and what the future is going to look like. As you heard Amanda say, the Premier has been very upfront about trying to give an understanding of what it's going to look like as we come out of this, but until we understand when the numbers start going down, I sympathise that it's a difficult job to do. So let me give you a bit of an update on all of the support that's out there, and you might have already seen some, but I'm going to drill through exactly what's out there for the businesses and your staff and what they can apply for. So the first one is the federal staff support, and this has been extended to Sydney and Greater Sydney. Sydney from the 1st of July, Greater Sydney from the 4th when the more stricter rules came in. So in the first and second weeks of that process, if the staff lost less than 20 hours, they can apply to get that $3.25 per week. They can do that through the Service Australia website. If they lost 20 hours or more, they get $500 for those first 2 weeks. But when week 3 and beyond, which as we know, we're in week 3, next week's week 4, it actually has been increased to $375 and also $600 for greater than 20 hours. So if you have casuals or staff that have lost that work, that you are not providing an income to them, this is an option for them, and they can apply online quite easily and make sure they get those payments. So that's right across the country. Across, this is a federal program. ACT. This one came out on Wednesday. It's probably not to the tune of what you're going to see for New South Wales. So we are trying to work with Andrew Barr and the Chief Minister and all policy areas of the ACT government at the moment to try to help them understand our predicament, because unfortunately this payment, although certainly welcome, it certainly doesn't cover the costs that I'm sure the ones online have endured, and it also has some clauses in there which are quite challenging for some of our businesses. But basically this is the small tourism operator grant. Now there is another grant that's for larger accommodation providers. It's a rebate on water and sewage costs, but this one is a cash payment. And this payment can go towards costs of rates, fees, charges, fuel, mortgages, all that type of cost that you have to bear no matter what business is doing. So it could be up to 15,000. You have to have seen a loss, of course, but it is open to most of our operators that would be part of the outdoor sector. The challenge comes in where you have to verify that ACT is your main place of business. Obviously, we know that some of our providers navigate outside of the territory, even though they are based in the territory. So that certainly has been an earmark that we have taken on board and made sure we're discussed at the policy level to see what we can do. So that is there. You can download the guidelines off the ACT website, so act.gov.au, and go to the COVID section. You'll see tourism grants available. So the applications aren't open yet. They're expected to open in the coming weeks. So keep an eye on your members' newsletters, and I will certainly let you know when those applications open. You can register for notifications on those grants as well. So if you go on the website now, you can register your interest and make sure you are one of the first to get access. Now, moving on to New South Wales, a lot more support is out there for New South Wales businesses. So it comes in various forms. The first one is the business grant, and this is a one-off payment similar to the ACT on the basis that it's a cash payment to support with cash flow. And that's for the first 3 weeks of lockdown. So it's everywhere from 7,500 to 15,000. You just need to show the decline of that period to previous periods. And you've got some conditions of which you need to be within, but that will open on the 19th of July. So that is not far away. Service New South Wales website is your place to go for all of these. That's where everything will be available. Job Saver. This is the one that we've been asking for and certainly advocating through our channels to make sure that this was considered. As we know, JobKeeper saved a lot of us last year, and this certainly will help, although it may not meet all costs. We've got to take what we can get, and certainly this is a great start. It is up to, well, it's 40% of your weekly payroll or up to a maximum payment of $10,000 a week. So this is based around, again, that decline of 30% or more. And now the details of when that 30% is marked, we're not sure at this point in time, but we will get the guidelines as soon as they open in late July for this one. So again, I'll keep you informed as soon as more information comes to hand. The third one is the micro business grant. So this is great for those sole traders and one-man bands that we have in this industry quite prominently. And this is a fortnightly payment. So it can be $1,500 per fortnight, again, to help with those costs that you need to cover regardless of operating or not. And again, that turnover benchmark is between 30 and 75, but you've got to see that decline of 30% or more. This will probably come out the same time as the jobs support one. So again, it'll come out in the members newsletter when it's available. And there's lots more that the government has put out there, which there's an accommodation provider one, which some of you may be eligible for. So if you can show that you've lost business in the school holiday period because you supply accommodation, you could have up to $2,000 for 10 room nights or $5,000 if it's more than 10 room nights that you lost. And that is obviously the period of the school holidays for New South Wales, and that's the 25th of June to the 11th of July. You've got to show that evidence of cancellation, which I'm sure you all can. It's certainly you're open to that grant as well. And then there's a lot that have come through fair trading. So we've got payroll tax deferrals. So you can opt to defer your payments in your annual reconciliation, and your interest-free repayment plans for 12 months is again available. Payroll tax concessions as well. So now you can help reduce your overheads on your payroll tax. So a 25% reduction where there's a 30% decline in your turnover. And pleasing to see the tenant one has come up again, so more protection for impacted tenants. So if you're leasing, renting a commercial premises, there is protection there for you in that one. And I think we've mentioned this a couple of times before on our Connect and Shares, but the Dine and Discover program has now been extended to the 31st of August. So again, if you are part of that program, trying to take advantage as soon as the lockdown finishes, in getting some more people into your business through the experience side of Dine and Discover. Before we go on to other things, I wanted to open up the floor. Any questions on any of that? I'd love to hear your stories, because certainly when I'm dealing with policy and all of the government areas that I'm dealing with at the moment, the stories are really helpful. So anyone want to ask anything or give any feedback on any of that content? Dawn?
Hi, Laurie. Hi, everyone.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. Are we the ones down south in Mexico that you mentioned earlier?
Yes. No, David Chitty from Victoria was the Mexican.
Oh, I see.
But yes.
But yeah, very interested in all the, obviously ACT has done so very little to support the operators.
Correct.
And one of the constraints we've had over the last year or two is New South Wales, whilst they've given out fantastic grants and all our work extends into New South Wales,
Yes.
we're not eligible, which you've touched on already, Laurie. But that's kind of the reverse of what you were saying. So we're concerned as ACT registered businesses who operate in New South Wales. New South Wales businesses obviously operating in the ACT, you know, they're still getting all the support.
Correct. That's right.
What's Andrew's response? How are you going talking to them?
Yeah, not a lot at the moment. We are certainly making more inroads, but it has been a battle. I'm not getting much feedback at the moment. It certainly has been on our agenda for the last 2 days consistently. But yeah, to the point that media attention is now being prominent. So hopefully we'll get some response soon. When we first started on this, obviously the New South Wales program was released. So we went straight in to say, okay, where's ACTs? We then was told that there was something coming. So we waited. Obviously, that's what we got, what I showed today in that afternoon. So it certainly didn't hit the sides as far as what we're needing. As you pointed out, a lot of our ACT businesses rely on New South Wales business, but we do have some ACT businesses that actually use New South Wales as the land in which they operate, or other states, for example, to do their business, but they pay rates, they pay water, they pay everything to the ACT government. So that's certainly something that is high on our agenda in our discussions.
I'd like to just give you an example for use. We've received 10K business grants back in the days of the bushfires, which I think was November. I've lost track, but it's over 12 months ago, of course. We're now being audited, and they've set 2 new requirements on the grants. And I'd talk to you in detail about it, but I think that's a big no-no.
Awesome. Dawn, can I call you later on that one? I'd love to know more.
I'll just send you an email, of course. But if anyone else is experiencing it, that would be good to know in this group. Is anyone else being audited for anything? I'd like to know.
I've got a few Canberra people online. Anyone experiencing the same? So I'm just reading the messages.
Yeah, no, we're not experiencing any audits, but it might be in the letterbox at home, which we haven't looked at for about 8 weeks.
Yeah, so I think it started about 10 months out, but we're up to 12 months now of discussions.
Right.
So it was definitely a delayed audit, and it was definitely all about territory. Where are you? Why are you claiming this? You know, left, right, and centre. So.
Mark, did you get that same grant that Dawn's speaking of?
Absolutely not.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. No, we haven't received anything in all of this time, purely because we're based in the ACT.
Yeah.
And the ACT very much looks at what do you contribute to us. And admittedly, we pay rates and we do our rego, but they overlook the amount of money we spend with other businesses in the ACT.
Yes.
And they overlook the amount of money, the revenue we raise when we bring people into Canberra and spend with people in the ACT.
Yep.
So all the hotels and the restaurants we take people to, that's just not taken into account, and it's just so soul destroying in some ways. But we get over it, and I think that you don't. I think we've got to live with it. Is that they don't have a soul, and so. And they've always claimed that Canberra doesn't have a soul from tourism, but it's because the government doesn't have it.
Yeah. Look, it's pleasing to hear that everything you're saying is what I've been saying in my discussions with them. So thank you for that. But yes, I'm really keen to hear about that audit, Dawn. If there's anything else that you think would be worthwhile in these discussions, whether it be dollars lost and that type of thing, please do not hesitate to throw it through on an email or call me, because yeah, we certainly need to keep going on this one. It's not good enough, and we're going to lose businesses, and big businesses as well as small businesses.
Can I just throw in one more? Sorry to
Absolutely.
my first meeting. Are you guys dealing with SRBEC, the Southern Region Business Enterprise Centre?
Yes, we are.
Because as Canberra businesses, and I don't know if Mark would support this, but while they are operating from Queanbeyan, they're our main source of support in Canberra. So ironically, they're New South Wales funded, and they're the ones giving us advice, which obviously is why this is getting tricky.
Right. Okay. Interesting. We do have a relationship with Southern Region Bec. I've just noticed some change in staff there at the moment. But yeah, it's an interesting point. I might just touch base with them and see how they're navigating this from that perspective. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for coming. Welcome for your first one.
So far, it's great.
Lots more. Awesome. Anyone else? New South Wales or ACT? Is there any other discussion? Interesting comment there, Dave. I think we all should expect audits of grants in the future. Might not happen, but needs to be planned for certain. I think it goes without saying from a taxpayer's perspective, they want to do checks and things on it, but I think it's challenging when some of these grants are literally to keep businesses alive, and the urgency of spending those sorts of grants. Yeah, good point though. We need to be conscious of that. Any other questions regarding the support packages, current situation regarding COVID and restrictions? No? Okay, we might move on. If you think of any, drop them in the chat, contact me later, or just speak up and we'll keep going.
Yeah, Laurie, just one thing.
Yes, Mark.
If you've got the opportunity at the end, if you can give us a call, there's a couple of things that I'd like to talk to about the ACT.
Yep. Will do. Okay, note that down. Not a problem. Mel.
Hey, Laurie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Is the Job Saver just for Sydney and Greater Sydney, not regional?
The Job Seeker is for all businesses that have had a decline of 30% or more.
Oh, okay.
So that was certainly lobbied for as part of whether it be Business New South Wales or others that got involved because of the tourism industry and our industry, which we knew would be disadvantaged because we rely on a lot of Sydney people in our businesses.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dawn. So it was an actual extension of requirements to be eligible. That's it. That's okay. Right. Okay, great. I'll contact you later and we'll I'll get some more detail. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Dawn. Okay, so jumping through in the rest of the update week in review. Yes, the other things did happen this week, amazingly. So we do have the last call for essential research for our camp and education. And look, as much as we're saying we're not operational at the moment in this space, this is important research to make sure that we not only recover, but we also look at the future of how schools, Department of Education, independent schools work with outdoor education. As we know, we had the ACARA review, Outdoors New South Wales and ACT certainly put our comments forward in that review to ensure that outdoor education is not missed and actually enhanced. But this research is really important. So if you host school camps or you're involved in school camps, this is an essential piece that I really ask you to respond to. If you have school groups, this is also really key. So if you can scan that QR code, write down that website, really, really important to now get your perspective, because we're also surveying the schools and their perspective, and matching the two will come out with some recommendations that we can bring to industry on how we grow this particular area of outdoor education. The second research or feedback that we're asking is via our climate change subcommittee, who are incredibly passionate about what the outdoor industry can do in leading climate change. We have asked everyone to put their thoughts forward in where they sit with climate change right now. So while you've got your phones out or while you have your pen handy, please either write down that website address to complete that feedback, or scan that QR code, and that will take you to that feedback. Again, really important that we get that information so that the committee can streamline where they need to put their attention, and help provide tools for you, the industry, in getting ahead on climate change. Youth Resilience Program. You might remember, we won a significant grant to ensure that we have some of our disadvantaged youth connected with outdoor recreation, and also get them into camp, which they may never have done in their lives to date. So this is a very important project. It's going to be in North Coast, New South Wales, and also Greater Sydney in the Hunter region. We have an exciting announcement to make. We've gone through the process of recruitment for a project coordinator for this role, and I'm pleased to say actually she's online, I think. Bron, are you there? You are. Welcome, Bronwyn White, everyone, who has been successful in the project coordinator role for the Youth Resilience Program. Will be literally starting next week and putting her running shoes on. So, Bronwyn, did you want to say anything? No? Are you muted? Are you? I think you're muted. Oh. I think you're still muted.
She's talking and she's muted.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm being harassed by my GSP, my little dog. Well, he's not that good. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great project, and yeah. So and it will be putting the running shoes on and getting into it pretty quickly. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. And I'm sure if you are an activity provider or a camp provider in those regions that I mentioned, you'll hear from Bron very soon. So thanks again. The next one, I think I've had so many phone calls or emails saying, is the conference going ahead? Look, it certainly is hoping to. We are pushing forward with the National Outdoor Education Conference. Where we have faith that we will get a handle on the current situation. We hope that the National Outdoor Education Conference will not be compromised and will go ahead on the 28th, 29th and 30th of September in Fairmont, at the Fairmont in Lura. So keep an eye on the website, of course, but if you've registered, you'll be corresponded with through our networks. And if you're on the database for the NOEC event, then you'll also get the updates from me. But I urge anyone that is in the outdoor education sector, this is a great opportunity to hear from some of the best in our sector about the movements in all areas of the outdoor education realm. So please come and join us, and it's all on our website, so you can go straight there and register. The third point there, I just wanted to welcome officially the new CEO of the Australian Camps Association, Rod Thompson. I had the pleasure of catching up with him this week. He also has hit the ground running, a bit similar to myself when I started the day of lockdown in 2020. He sort of joined and was greeted with a Melbourne lockdown. He's based in Melbourne, but he has a great journey ahead of him in understanding more about the Camps Association, and certainly we look forward to working with you, Rod, in the years to come. The OCA working groups have started. The first one actually starts today. So yeah, interesting days ahead. We're getting these groups together to understand what that's going to look like. You might remember that I mentioned that the OCA agreed on 3 particular working groups to look at the whole sector on these areas, which is attraction and retention of workers, qualifications and training pathways, and industry accreditation and frameworks. We also recognise the importance that accessibility and inclusion play, as well as promoting the industry as a whole. And both of those areas will be combined into each of those 3 working groups and a consideration for those groups going forward. So looking forward to really updating you as it comes out. But if you're going to the National Outdoor Education Conference, you could actually attend one of the sessions that will be driven by the president of the OCA, Mr. Dom Courtney, and he will be certainly giving an update at that event, and also an extension of a workshop on how that's working for the industry and what people see as the outcomes. So great stuff ahead in regards to that. The other update I wanted to give you was around the Trail Bike Committee. This is another subcommittee of Outdoors New South Wales and ACT. The group got together to really look at the challenges that trail bike riders have in doing their activity in New South Wales and the ACT around land managers and owners, and navigating some of the other challenges in regards to licensing and registration. You can see from their strategic intent that they want to improve the perception and the understanding of that this activity is a legitimate recreational activity that provides a lot of physical and mental health to its participants. They want to start navigating those partnerships with land managers and owners, a really important key to people like national parks, Crown Lands, local Aboriginal land councils to drive better outcomes for both parties. They also want to build partnerships and work with other land users and make sure that there is a cohesive approach to other recreational activities. And they want to develop a New South Wales trail and adventure bike strategic plan, and that will help navigate some of the processes to achieve the top 3 areas. But I thought it was really important to bring it up to you today because a lot of people don't understand the value of this activity. You can see from the activity snapshot, this came from the survey that we did last year with MCC, which is the Motorbike Club, and you can see that the age group is 35 to 54 majority of the times, but they actually go 34 times a year. So it's a very continual sport, and again, driving more health response, mental health and physical health. State Forest is probably the most used landowner when it comes to this, and that's purely because it's accessible and provides that facility. About 90% of them do not travel more than 2 hours from their location. It is certainly incredible to see the camaraderie and the social aspects to this as well, because most of them ride with mates. But this is the really important part. I think the perceived negative impact is around environmental damage, noise pollution, local residents' impact and safety, And these are the challenges that the group have in trying to work with landholders on these areas. But why do they do it? They enjoy the outdoors, they get a mental health outcome, reducing stress, a lot of fun, mateship, etc., similar to a lot of the activities that we have in the outdoors. The concerns from the trail bike riders is trails being closed because potentially of some of the perceived negative impacts, lack of access, cost of registration. An interesting story they told me is, a lot of kids, when they come through into their older primary school years, want to ride a trail bike, but it's very difficult. You go buy a bike or want to ride, and there is literally nowhere that they can ride unless they are navigating it with their parents. The risk of being fined too, because technically every trail bike rider should be licensed. And I think this is a misconception in the area of trail bike riding as well. But as you can see there, 76% would actually support a registration scheme. We just don't have that registration scheme. You have to pay a full registration for your bike at this moment in time. The other aspect, which is incredibly important, which I think some of you have understood from my background, is the economy side of it. And we talk about outdoor economy, and this is part of it. The boost that it gives towns in the trail bike riders coming into their township, increasing hotel occupancy as they're going on trips. They do eat and drink in town, and they don't take a lot with them because they can't carry a lot, but they buy fuel and supplies as well. So the economic output of this activity is really important as well. So if it's something that you're interested in and you want to know more, you can certainly go to our website there, and you can just use the extension on our website, Trail Bikes. That'll take you to the committees page. You can join the communication list to keep updated on where they head with their strategic intention. You can view the strategic intent document there and just be updated through that website. So yeah, looking forward to more being achieved here, but we're certainly working with our stakeholders on that strategic intention document at the moment to understand some of the challenges we need to navigate. Any questions on that particular activity? And you just sent me a novel, David Chitty.
I grew up trail bike riding as a kid. I mean, it was a big thing, and I think I think certainly people in my generation would support it. I think what we need is to set aside public land for where younger people can use trail bikes. That was done unofficially, certainly around Melbourne when I was younger. It was a place where the police would work with land managers, so all of us unlicensed youngsters could go and ride around. And so it was a combination of police, local community, others, and it worked quite well. Might need to be a bit more formal now.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, you've your state is a little bit ahead of the curve here, because you actually have a recreation licensing, which we're trying to look at to see if it can be put into place here in New South Wales. We do have some legislation difficulties that are different to Victoria, but certainly something that we are looking at.
State forest.
Great. All right, guys. Just another quick reminder about the National Outdoor Education Conference. If you haven't grabbed your tickets, please do so. The actual dinner is full, other than I think two, Leslie, 2 seats left.
Yeah, like a couple left.
Couple left. So if you're desperate to get to the dinner, make sure you grab those tickets. Awesome. Thank you. Great, I'll open it up to the floor. Does anyone want to bring up any other challenges they're seeing or opportunities that they're seeing, or just want to discuss anything in particular?
Can I dip my oar in with an observation on the motorcycle front?
Absolutely, Hugh. Please go for it.
Yeah, so I, both Bridie and I ride adventure tourers. She much more capably than I does, but I'm pretty good at picking mine up again after I fall off it. One of the, I guess, the things that that springs to mind is the impact these guys leave in the areas that they're in.
Yep.
And if we went out on a drive to Nunes Plateau, I think probably most people in this group at the moment would be absolutely horrified at what they would see out there. So particularly, you know, at the end of long weekends, people just walk away from full camps that are set up. They leave campfires burning, you know, cheap, nasty tents, rubbish everywhere. It's sort of disgraceful.
Yeah.
There's this beautiful little canyoners campsite called Bungalbori that's been renamed Boganbori because the trail bike riders have taken over it. And
Right.
so I wonder, I sort of think there might be some really good opportunity there to work with them on a sort of minimal impact, leave no trace type thing. And I'm not really talking and thinking about the erosion and the sort of the impact of the bikes, but perhaps more the attitude of empty stubbies and rum tins and all of that sort of stuff is. And it'd be nice to sort of say it's a minority that give the majority the bad name, but that's kind of not what we see in the areas that we interact with these people. So it's definitely an area where we could have a lot of impact with perhaps not too much energy if we can encourage them to clean up their act there a little bit.
Absolutely, Hugh. Thank you for bringing that up. It has been identified at the committee, and MCC are quite aware of that, and that's where that perceived impact needs to be changed around to preventing impact. So yeah, certainly hear you there, and yeah, great feedback. I think I haven't heard about the Bungalbori story, but yeah, one that I think we need to take to them as a case. And the messaging and marketing that we could impact, I agree, we could actually make a big impact there. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
Anything else from anyone that's you've got going at the moment? No? Okay. Well, guys, what I might do is we'll stop the recording. If anyone wants to hang back and just have a conversation about anything in particular, you're more than welcome to. The other thing is we all need a bit of a mental health sanity check at the moment. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to get people's heads around, particularly not only for now, but for the future. So the happy hour is certainly meant for that purpose. If you want to join us at 4 o'clock this afternoon, jump online, general chit chat, anything can be discussed, and we are certainly there for each other in that forum if you want to just come on and join us. The link is on our Facebook page or on any of your members' newsletters, so we hope to see you there. But other than that, you have a fabulous day, fabulous weekend. Stay safe, stay away from COVID. As one who's now fully vaccinated, I'm still standing, and please, if you get the opportunity, go and get vaccinated. Have a great weekend, or see you soon.